Hello and welcome to the NGOCC podcast. I'm your host, Chivesa Cecilia Mongulube, and today on this particular episode, we get to discuss the harmful traditional practices that are practiced in our country, but also even in other parts of Africa. Welcome, I'm not alone today. I am joined by a gentleman. I'm so excited because for the very first time on the podcast, we get to feature a gentleman, and he's the one who's going to highlight most of the issues circled around harmful traditional practices. I am talking about Mr. Muchemwa. Good afternoon and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So today we are discussing harmful traditional practices, but before we even dive into the discussion, perhaps you could tell the viewers who is Mr. Muchemwa and where you're coming from.
Thank you so much. My name is Gordon Muchemwa. I'm the programs manager of Zambia National Traditional Councillors Association. It is an NGO, a member of the Non-Governmental Gender Organization Coordinating Council. We are operating in all the 10 provinces of Zambia.
Nice.
Normally, people call us Alangizi because they're the people who do the initiations and also the marriage preparations.
Very nice. So today we are chatting with Alangizi, guys. So open your ears and listen. So today's topic is quite insightful and very, very interesting. And I believe that you are the right person as the Alangizi to answer these questions. We are discussing harmful traditional practices. So perhaps we could pick it up from the introduction of the topic. How would you describe a harmful traditional practice?
Thank you so much. A harmful traditional practice, it is a practice that violates the rights of a human being, the rights of a person. Whatever you do to someone that will violate their rights, that becomes harmful to that particular person. In our country, we have a lot of traditional practices, cultures that we believe in, some of which we are good. And because we have been brought up believing that they are good, others we are just realizing that somehow they are infringing on the rights of women, for example, the rights of children, and those practices are what we refer to as harmful traditional practices.
Very interesting, very good explanation. Now, before we even get into the discussion of harmful traditional practices, because it is currently happening and it is rampant, rape and defilement, do you think that traditional practices have played a role in the hike of the number of cases that we have seen for rape and defilement?
Yeah, to some extent, I would say it has, because you'd hear rumors to do with rituals, some rituals, and when you connect these rituals are traditional aspects, it's coming from traditional healers. And coming from traditional healers, they are termed as traditional practices. You find that people are told to do some of these things. There was that man who, in his explanation, innocently was saying, I was told that for my child to get better, for my child to get healed, that is the only thing that I can do, to have sex with the child. So for me, I was trying to see to it that my child is healed, and yet he ended up harming the child. So in some way, I can say that some of these traditional practices are contributing to that. Not only that, you'd find that there are certain practices that around incest. In some tribes, they believe that a cousin can be a wife. All those are some of the traditional practices that are leading to some of this rise in these cases of defilement. To add on to that, the issues around the polygamy, for example, the cases where we saw people who are marrying more than one wife, they have a lot of wives. And in situations where maybe none of the wives is available, because of whatever concoctions they take, because of they believe traditionally that as men they have to be strong, and because of taking some of those, they end up infringing on the rights of a child by having sex with children.
Very true, and it's quite disturbing, really. Mr. Muchemwa, let's talk about some of the harmful traditional practices that are currently being practiced in our country and also in remote areas of this country. You mentioned that your organization is in all the 10 provinces of Zambia.
Yes.
So I believe that you always get information with regards to the harmful traditional practices. So let's talk about some of the harmful traditional practices that are currently happening.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll just start from our patriarchal system, where growing up, as a boy, you are told a girl cannot beat you. A girl cannot surpass you. And in that regard, you try by all means to make sure that you suppress a girl. When you do that, you feel you are boy enough, you are man enough. That's where it starts from. Because of this growing up, we are socialized to believe that as boys, we should rule over the girls. We should suppress the girls. And this is what has culminated to inheritance issues. You hear whenever a person dies, you find that inheritance preference goes to a boy child. It is only a boy child that should inherit and not a girl child. You have situations where this woman is married to this man, they've worked together, this man dies, the family comes and grabs everything because they feel she has no right to inherit anything from the deceased husband. So all these inheritance issues, all these issues around dominance, all these issues where you would see in certain situations beating a woman would be seen to be normal because you are socialized to believe that you have the power and the right to discipline a woman. So all that comes because of the patriarchal system that we are brought up to believe that as boys, as men, we have the power or dominance over women. So this is where the bad traditional practices start from.
We have seen an increase also in the number of divorce cases, despite our country still holding on to our tradition heritage of preparing the boy and the girl before marriage, but we still see an increase in the number of divorce cases. Do you think that it is being caused due to some harmful traditional practices that are being maybe taught to these people that are being prepared for marriage?
Yeah, surely. To some extent, I can say it is true. Number one, when you look at a marriage, for example, in a marriage, we believe that children should be a product of a marriage. We believe that every marriage should bear children. And in situations where there are no children in that marriage, the first culprit will be the woman. People starting from the family of the man, they will be speaking against this woman, no, you divorce her. And to some extent, just giving somebody bear girls only becomes an issue. I need a boy child. She's unable to give me a boy child. So it's better I marry someone else, or better I divorce her, or I go and get a second wife, and so on. So all those traditional aspects lead to some of these divorce cases that we are seeing around. And there are also certain teachings that we undergo when getting into marriage. I would say that our teachings mostly are symbolic when we prepare young people for marriage. Most of the teachings are symbolic in the sense that it's like when you want to tell somebody something, you don't want them to forget easily. You associate it with something that they do always. You find there what are called chicken lessons, where they associate a lot of things around the home to a chicken, because it is something that people are handling every time. Whenever they look at the chicken, whenever they are dressing a chicken, they should be looking at those parts and thinking about certain things, aspects of the marriage. And then you find that in some of these teachings, you would prepare a girl in that manner, and then the boy knows nothing around those things. The girl comes to the marriage with a basket full of articles that she has been taught to use in the home. The boy is not aware about all those things. At the end of the day, the boy suspects that you brought witchcraft in my home. Those are some of the things that are leading to some of the divorce cases that we are seeing. So what is important is that if we are to train, we are to equip these young people getting married. As traditional councillors, let's look at training them on both sides. So in some cases, this has also contributed to some of the divorce cases we are seeing.
Mr. Muchemwa, we are still seeing people in some parts of the country marrying off girls at a very young age because they've become of age or because they've attained puberty. And it's a traditional practice that has been going on. As an organization, what are you doing to ensure that there's been a reduction or that there's sensitization in some parts of the country with regards to early marriages?
Thank you so much. As an organization, through NGOCC, we are doing a number of programs that we are doing in some of these communities. we are doing some trainings, especially trainings of our traditional councillors, because our traditional councillors are the ones that are also involved in preparing these young girls for marriage. So once they are educated, they have the information. Once they know that marrying off a child is against the law, means that if somebody brings a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, they say for Yalangizi to prepare, they should be able to say, no, I can't go ahead because this is against the law. So we are working together with other organizations. We are also members of the Ending Child Marriage in Zambia network. And through this network, we are engaging traditional leaders, we are engaging headmen. Right now, as I'm speaking, we are doing a project under NGOCC, funded by the Swedish Embassy, where we are looking at some of these entrenched traditional cultural practices that are perpetuating gender inequality in Rufunsa and Ruangwa districts. So we are training traditional councillors, we are training headmen, we are bringing teachers, pastors, including civic leaders to one table and discuss these bad traditional practices. You take it to be normal until somebody tells you that, please, this is not right. So this is what we are doing. We're trying to sensitize the young people, the head persons, the traditional councillors, other leaders, so that they also join the bandwagon in fighting this vice of child marriage.
Very, very insightful. We have seen some notions. I'm taking advantage of this opportunity because you're a traditional marriage counselor. There are these sentiments that go around, Mr. Muchemwa, of allowing the men to cheat, which I feel is one of the harmful traditional practices. As a marriage counselor, when preparing the male child, do you encourage the male children to cheat when they get married? Because there's this notion that says, and so men are allowed to have multiple partners despite them having a wife at home. What's your take on this as a traditional counselor, and what are you doing around this particular issue?
Thank you so much. In our trainings, as we train our counselors, we bring out issues around, because the theme around our training, we have a manual that we have developed with the support of the government. The manual integrates gender in traditional counseling. And what we are looking at is, first of all, when we come to our counselors, we'll tell them that it is important to be relevant. What do we mean when we say relevant? Today, we have our boys and girls going through education. They know about issues surrounding reproduction. They learn issues surrounding sex and so on. But now, you as a traditional counselor, you come and tell them that, if you have sex, a man cheats, it is normal. Whilst they know about the STIs, whilst they know about some of these diseases. So what we are doing now is training our counselors to be able to understand issues around sexual reproductive health. Because when you talk of sexual reproductive health, you are talking about STIs, you're talking of HIV and AIDS, you are talking about whatever complications that arise because of some of these diseases are sexually transmitted infections. So this notion of saying it is a wrong notion. It is because of things around polygamy. That is why people take polygamy to be normal. And yet polygamy is one of the bad traditional practices that we have, meaning that we encourage every man to stick to one wife, to be able to raise your children very well. We don't want to see situations where, because of promiscuity, people die prematurely of HIV and AIDS, leaving children to suffer. That is why we are promoting a man sticking to their partner.
Men, I hope you have heard, they are promoting a man to stick to one partner. Maybe you should resound that statement.
Yes, this is our message. Please, men, make sure that you stick to your partner, because this promiscuity may lead you to bringing diseases into your home, which is not good for a family.
Mr. Muchemwa, let's talk about policies that perhaps your organization is working on, maybe hand in hand with NGOCC or even with the government. What are some of the policies that you would want to be developed, that you would want to see being developed and being actualized to curb some of these harmful traditional practices?
Thank you so much. When we talk of policies, the first thing I would look around is the issues around sexual reproductive health. Because today we have a lot of problems arising because of certain diseases like fistula, where when you go into the villages, people will just think it's witchcraft because people don't understand how some of those diseases come about. We are talking of situations where people do not undergo family planning. We have an explosion in our population, and we are unable to feed our children, not because of the economy alone, but because of our capacity. You have 10 children living in a 2-roomed house, and you are unable to send those children to school. What is happening? You have a lot of high population in our communities, especially in our compounds around Lusaka. You can't believe when you see the number of people coming out of a 1-roomed house. You'd think it's a joke, and it's a reality. So this is because people are not practicing family planning. People are not planning how they're going to raise their children. It's just like we're just bearing children and unable to support them. So for me, the most important document around this is the reproductive health policy. Yes, the government has attempted to enact this policy around 2002, somewhere there, and it died a natural death like that. For me, I would request that this policy be revamped, because reproductive health is something that is so important, because it borders around the health, not only women, and also men, and also our children. So the reproductive health policy, we're advocating. That means that we're advocating that the government enacts the reproductive health policy. We are glad that we have the Children's Code Bill, which prohibits exposing children to harmful traditional practices, including child marriage, the one that we've just talked about. We have a very good progressive law, the Gender Equity and Equality Law, which we feel is not being actualized because of non-appointment of a commission in order to operationalize that law. So we're advocating that the government appoints a commission so that this very progressive law is operationalized. Then we have other laws that need also to be repealed, laws like the Penal Code, for example, around certain issues. There are certain issues, for example, where we feel that some amendments must be done to the Penal Code. Things to do, for example, the consent to sex is something that, of course, very controversial, and is something that is real. Because today we cannot bury our heads and say only 16 years and above are the ones that are indulging. That is the wrong notion. Because when you go to the health center today, you find that there are a lot of 15-year-olds that are pregnant. And because our law only allows consent to 16 years and above, it means that some of the services, health services that these adolescents are supposed to get from health centers, they are unable, because the health practitioner feels that it is against the law that this child is involved in. It's in other words, I would say, it is like aiding a crime when you support and provide services to such children. So those are some of the few things that I can highlight.
Mr. Muchemwa, after highlighting the fact that our law only allows people that are 16 years and above, this then brings me down to wanting to find out on this particular issue. Do you think that as traditional councillors, or as the tradition of Zambia really, is doing enough to talk to young people regarding sex?
Our tradition has let us down in that angle, because the way it used to be today, you cannot do it the way it used to be. So what we are saying is, how can we mitigate this? It is by encouraging us parents to be opening up to our children on issues surrounding sex. The grandfather is not there. The auntie is not there. Only her father and mother and children. And as a result, who is there now to tell the child about some of these things surrounding sex? There is no one. It is only Facebook. There's only TikTok and all those platforms. That's where they get the information from. And in this way, I would say that the better they know from us than knowing it from their colleagues. So as parents, we should take this responsibility and open up to our children and discuss things surrounding sex to our children.
Right, because I believe for the fact that parents don't really sit down with us and you just get to have information from social media, from friends at school who are maybe slightly more exposed than you, perhaps it's also another reason that puts these young people at the verge of now trying to indulge in this thing that parents are not talking about, or there's that mentality or mindset of why now you are curious and you want to find out why are they stopping me from doing this, like what really is in it when I get to indulge in these cases. Now we recently saw the release of the statistics of gender-based violence, and in the episode that we aired last week we were discussing gender-based violence, and there's been an increase of up to 9,700 cases compared to the first quarter last year. Do you think as tradition, it also has a huge role to play with regards to gender-based violence cases? And on this particular instance, let's try and focus more on physical gender-based violence. As traditional councillors, do you think that physical gender-based violence emanates also from some of the traditional practices that we are taught?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Number one, there are these traditional councillors who are not our members. They are still holding on to that traditional counseling that was inherited from our forefathers, where they teach about being secretive. Whatever happens in the home, whether you are beaten, you should not report. And in those situations, that's where you find people would be knocking at a door, people are not responding, only to see flies at the door of somebody's door. When they break the door, they find that somebody was killed. And when you follow up, you discover that this violence started some way back. Neighbors were seeing some signs of violence, but whenever they asked the woman would say, no, I just bumped myself against the wall and so on. Because of those teachings, that has also contributed to these cases. Then secondly, traditionally we are taught that it is the men that are supposed to supply, provide for the home. That is the role of the men, to provide for the home. And now the woman will just be around the home, just cooking and doing all the other chores. And then when there's not enough food in the home, when the woman asks the man, we don't have meal, that can trigger a fight in homes. And most of these fights that we are seeing, they're around the domestic issues to do with maybe provision at home. In some situations, because a woman feels I should not just wait for the man, let me also do something. They wake up in the morning, they go out there to struggle, to go to Soweto and do all those. You find that the man is uncomfortable. The man becomes jealousy. Where are you getting this money from? Maybe you have boyfriends and so on. All those small issues are triggering a lot of violence in homes. So what is important going forward is that in our counseling, it is important that we bring out issues of women empowerment. Men should understand that when you are working together with a woman, you'll be able to raise enough resources, despite the biting economy, because 2 hands are better than one. So we need to promote women empowerment. Today, a lot of women are being abused. They can't report. Why? Because it's the breadwinner. If I report, then he's arrested. How will we survive? So there are a lot of these cases. We are seeing cases rising because a few people are coming out. But there are still other cases that are still under the carpet because the woman can't report because of fear of being destitute, having no one to support them. So these are some of the issues. And you find that traditionally, if I marry off my child, I'm given the lobola, the bride price and whatever. Should anything go wrong with that marriage, they come back to me. Instead of helping, I would just be pushing them back. So you go back, because I don't want to refund the money that I received. So I'll be pushing them back into the violence that they are trying to run away from.
I like this. You're still watching the NGOCC podcast with me, Chivesa Cecilia Mungulove. And on the desk today, we are discussing harmful traditional practices with Mr. Muchemwa, who is programs manager. Now, sir, talking of the fact that women have to keep quiet in marriage when they are battered or when they are faced with certain situations, Society also, Mr. Muchemwa, you will agree with me that society also is a major player with regards to how marriage is treated right now. Sometimes when you share a problem with colleagues, they tend to make fun of you.
Yeah, sure.
How are you handling that as traditional councillors? Perhaps let me start from there.
Yeah, what is important is there are people that you can share information with, and there are people that you cannot share information with. There are some sensitive issues that you cannot share with anyone. That is why even when we are looking at traditional councillors, today you find that a person who just knows how to dance, a person who just knows how to drum, they would call themselves a councillor. And people would be going to them because of the good dance that they can exhibit. And yet they cannot give you any advice. They don't have that wisdom to be able to mentor somebody. So it is also important, even as we do our trainings of traditional councillors, we look at qualities. What are the qualities of a traditional councillor? How should a councillor conduct themselves? There must be somebody that is in society you can be able to look up to and say, I want my marriage to be like that marriage. I want my children to be raised the way that family is raising their children. So when you're opening up, you look at people who are at least morally upright in society, people that you feel can add value to your marriage. This is how some marriages have been destroyed because of opening up to people. Maybe they're even jealous of your marriage, and they'll give you wrong advice just to make sure that your marriage disintegrates. So around that one, it's very important that we look at credible people. Yeah, people that are morally upright, people that are of integrity that can help us.
When we talk of marriage, which I feel like plays a huge role in society and also in grooming and raising the child, what are some of the harmful traditional practices that are practiced in marriages now that you think should be done away with?
Yeah, first of all, there's the issue I mentioned about the boy child. Yeah, you find that in some marriages, once there are only girls, the family will say, no, we want a boy. And then you would find that people are arguing. There's this girl child. His parents are arguing. The father is saying, you can't give me a boy child. Then how will this girl child feel? Already they are defeated. They feel inferior just because of overhearing such conversations. Then within the marriage, there are also issues that we teach we teach people. Issues around confidentiality, for example. When we say confidentiality, we are not saying you should hold everything in confidence. There are certain things that you can open up to. And then there's the issue of dominance in terms of decision making. As a man, I should be the one to make a decision. In olden days, there's the Bemba saying, which goes like, meaning that even our forefathers, they knew that even a woman can make a good decision. So because we are brought to think that only men can make the decisions, and we end up regretting after we've made the mistake. We come back and realize that my wife had given me a proper advice, if only I had followed. So what we are saying that in these marriages, let's promote decision-making together where we participate equally. Because as an organization, we are trying to promote mutual relationships and equal decision-making within the home. Let even the children participate in decision-making. There are things that a child can bring up that you as a parent, you didn't know, you didn't understand. Yes.
Sir, that's very important. Allow me to say that it's very rare in most homes for a child to be brought into a decision-making, environment, because most of the times you just hear daddy, this, that, and that, and that's it. Like you as a child, you have no say. Sometimes maybe it even involves me as a child in the home, but my parents will have to make the decision for me, and there's nothing that I can say or do about it because they are my parents. Now, I would like you to touch maybe on other traditional councillors that are not part of your organization. How do you intend on bringing them on board or helping them out in acquiring this knowledge of getting rid of some harmful traditional practices that they are teaching to would-be, weds, people that are getting into marriage, even their own children at home?
Yeah, thank you so much. The manual that we developed together with the Department of Chiefs Affairs, the Minister of Health, a lot of stakeholders were part of that development. And in rolling out this manual, we will be issuing certificates. So with the support of government, we want to ensure that all those that are not certified do not continue to practice traditional counseling, because they are the ones perpetuating some of these harmful practices. We are inviting every counsellor to come forward and be a member of Zambia National Traditional Counsellors. Once you become a member, which means that you undergo this training that we have prepared for you, and once you undergo this training, you'll be certified. And then any emerging issues that will be arising, we'll be able to share and discuss and chant the way forward. Because society, culture is dynamic. Things are changing as time progresses. So some of the emerging issues might arise. As an organization, we sit down and then we share with our members, this thing that has come about, please let's handle it in this manner. In case something goes wrong, at least you have somebody to speak for you. That is why it is important that you counsellors out there, you become members of Zambia National Traditional Counseling. Just to add something on the issue of involvement of children in decision making. That is why this time, when you look at what is happening at our University of Zambia, where students go out, break cars, innocent cars are broken because they feel they are not being brought on the decision table. They are aggrieved because they are not taking part of the decisions. That's why today there's a slogan, it's nothing for us without us. So even in our homes, let's start from there. Let's start involving our children whenever we make decisions concerning them.
But there's been this notion, or there's been this thing of, I understand that there's a proverb that says, but it's not practiced in homes. And sometimes I feel parents just feel like, oh, what does she know? What can she say?
Yeah.
She's just a child.
Yeah, in fact, I mentioned that the time I was doing some training with some teachers, there was this teacher who was teaching about the Victoria Falls. And he was talking, he has never been there. He was talking because he has read it from the book. And there was this child who has been to the Victoria Falls. And then the child tries to raise the hand. The teacher says, what can you tell me? You know nothing. I'm teaching you. This is how it is. Without understanding that the child was there. And the child knows the place. And the child could even give a better view of how the Victoria Falls looks like and so on. So if only the teacher knew, he could have given that child an opportunity to explain to the friends how the Victoria Falls looks like and the experience that the child had. From that child, the friends would get a clear picture of what the Victoria Falls looks like, and the experience is better than from you, a teacher. So there are certain things that are better explained by children than us adults.
Right. And I hope parents who are tuned in are listening and understanding the fact that even children should be part and parcel of the decision-making process. So maybe before we even wrap up the podcast and the conversation, perhaps you could just share with our viewers what your take is as Traditional Counsellors Association on some of the things that you think that parents should inculcate in their children as they are growing.
Thank you so much. As parents, it's very important, like I mentioned, let's talk to our children around everything, including issues surrounding sex. Yes, we used to take it to be taboo in those days, but today children know a lot. In our conversation with the stakeholders, we had a meeting with head persons, teachers, and others. Some head person was accusing the teacher, saying you are the people who are destroying our children because you are teaching them about sex from school. And then the teachers responded by saying that it is important that they know rather than what is happening today, because once a child knows, when somebody tries to abuse them, they will know that this is not allowed because they were taught. So it is important that we tell our children these defilement cases that are growing up. You find that children are being enticed. Somebody will call a child in a home to come and sweep for me, and then he's just alone there. But once we start teaching children about some of these things, they know the implications. They know that you cannot be in one room with a man no matter how much trust you have in that man. These are some things that we parents should be able to talk to our children. Let's give our children the information that they need so that as they go out there, they can be able to live a better life and be protected from harmful practices.
Very true. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing us with your presence here at the podcast and for giving us very insightful information.
Thank you so much.
Before I even let you go, I know there's a webinar that will be happening soon, and we'll be discussing some of the harmful traditional practices. What should people expect from this webinar?
Yeah, thank you so much. This webinar, which is coming up, please tune in. It is something that is going to be so important. We are going to look at some of these traditional and cultural practices that are perpetuating gender inequality. Please be part of this and be able to contribute and be able to support us. Thank you so much.
Very true. We're excited. We're excited for the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the NGOCC podcast, and I have been discussing harmful traditional practices with Mr. Muchemwa. I hope that you, my dear viewer, has learned something from today's discussion. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and ensure that you watch all the episodes that we've been posting, because you might be missing out on some of the very important information that we might be sharing with you. I've been your host. My name is Chibesa Cecilia Mungulube. Till next week. Stay tuned.